What's good, everyone? This your main correspondent, Alan Taylor, and I'm back in the broadcast room yet again, always with another one. And yes, indeed, it is another one. So, shout out to all my good people out there in Florida. Let's make it out there safe, okay? Yes. Um, Sad to say, but there's actually, of course, as we know, it's actually another hurricane headed towards Florida yet again. And they just dealt with this same situation a few weeks past. This is crazy. But yes, one of the mayors of Florida, they have a dire warning for the constituents of her city and things like that. We're going to dive off into this. Quarters, nickels, and dimes, people.
Millions of Americans need now to brace for Hurricane Milton. This is round two during a suddenly violent hurricane season. Tampa, Florida is facing unsurvivable conditions, and we know from 12 days ago with Helene that forecasters mean it. Now, we pray that it's going to go off course and not hit any populated areas, but you've got to be ready. The storm remains a Category 4. It has been a 5 along the way toward the United States and will likely return to some 160 to 180 mile per hour winds being carried by a Cat 5. President Biden is set to speak at any moment after a briefing that he's receiving by FEMA officials. And of course, that's critical because there's all sorts of talk about what FEMA can do and what it hasn't done for Hurricane Helene victims and potentially could be facing more people to help by the end of this week.
Yeah, we're definitely trying to find that out. Are they going to, is FEMA going to kick in? What's going on here?
I'm Harris Faulkner. You are in the Faulkner Focus. Officials have ordered mandatory evacuations now for people in a dozen Florida counties. 5.5 million people in Florida living along the Gulf Coast must leave the area immediately. Let's watch.
We are leaving. This is the first time, in 12 years that we will be leaving for a storm, but we are evacuating about 11 miles inland. Just can't take any chances after seeing what Helene did. And Helene was 100 miles offshore.
Well, you heard it. A lot of people are starting to prepare for the worst, and they're doing it early. 4 million people live in the 6 counties surrounding Tampa Bay.
Sorry about that, you guys.
Homes and RVs, especially vulnerable to severe weather. Florida Senator Marco Rubio posted this. Several years ago, I asked the National Hurricane Center to show me what the worst-case storm hitting Florida would look like. What they showed me back then is almost identical to the Milton forecast now. Again, that's Senator Rubio of Florida. Fox team coverage now. Madison Scarpino is in Banner Elk, North Carolina. Dana Marie McNichols is in Miami Beach, Florida. First, though, let's go to senior meteorologist Janice Dean in the Fox Weather Center. Janice.
Harris, we just got the 11 a.m. advisory. They bumped up those winds to 150 mile per hour sustained winds. And yesterday we had an unbelievably strong hurricane at 180 mile per hour sustained winds. It is going to weaken a little bit as it approaches the west coast of Florida, but the concern is the storm surge. That's going to stay the same. Even if we're talking about a borderline Category 3, Category 4 hurricane when it makes impact, the storm surge is going to be upwards of 10 feet, and that is not survivable in some of these areas. So that's why you're seeing language like catastrophic and please evacuate, because you will not survive a 10 to 15 foot storm surge. We are going to potentially see a little more strengthening, but I think that this is what we're going to have, a Category 4, Category 3 making landfall. It's going to interact with a trough. That is what's steering this storm. North of the storm is where we're going to get the heavy rainfall. We could see upwards of a foot. South of it is where we see the devastating storm surge into areas that are extremely vulnerable to storm surge, and that is the Tampa Bay area. 10 to 15 feet underwater, because you've got all of this water from the Gulf of Mexico piling into.
Man, that's a lot of water. That's a lot of water. And nobody can swim in this particular type of water right here. The currents are going to be way too strong. the movement of the water. And we know water is a very damaging situation once it gets stride.
To the bays and the inlets, and this is a worst case scenario, and that's indeed what the track is saying. Now we look at places like Fort Myers, up to 10 feet. That's also going to be devastating for them. Hurricane force winds, at least a category 3, 110 miles per hour for a duration of hours as it crosses over the Florida peninsula. Still seeing a hurricane for Orlando up towards Daytona Beach, upwards of a foot of rainfall. But the real takeaway here, Harris, is the Tampa Bay area needs to brace for catastrophic storm surge. That is the push of the ocean in towards these bays and inlets. Tampa Bay is the most susceptible city in the U.S. to withstand that kind of storm surge.
All right, two things. One, and I'm looking for rays of hope in all of this. I heard you say that what we saw with 180-mile-an-hour winds yesterday when this was a Cat 5 likely will not return.
Correct.
That it's actually going to weaken now. And so
Yes.
that is good news in this update, that we're not going to go from a Cat 4 to a Cat 5, likely down to a Cat 3 as it makes its way.
Can I say something?
Yes.
Hurricane Katrina, almost 20 years ago, was a category 5. It made landfall as a 3 with a 30-foot storm surge. So do not pay attention to the category.
Okay.
Yes, it was a very strong storm in the Gulf of Mexico, but it carries with it a devastating storm surge. That does not change as the category goes down.
All right.
I can atone to that. I survived Katrina. So yes, I can atone to that. You definitely need to get out immediately if you haven't gotten out already. Hopefully, and I'm praying that a lot of you people are moving. You're getting out of there. You're trying to escape this situation. Yes, I survived Katrina. It was devastating. It all the way up through Louisiana, through Mississippi. We were tore up badly. It was horrible.
Real quick question. From what we just saw with Helene, I'm looking for the reason why it stayed on land and stayed so powerful for so long. Was that because it was a bigger storm when it hit? What are they looking for here? Because you said it's going to remain a Cat 3 for quite some time, could even cross the state.
It's going to cross the state. It's still going to be a hurricane. But, you know, I was listening to Governor DeSantis earlier on Fox and Friends. The state of Florida can withstand a category 3, category 2, category 1 hurricane, the winds. We're still going to see power outages. We're still going to see over a foot of rainfall. But it's the storm surge into the vulnerable area here along the West Coast, the Gulf Coast. And that is because of the topography, very shallow. So all of that water has to go somewhere. If this was anywhere else, a 10 to 15 foot storm surge could be withstood. This can't.
Yeah, it's got a lot of water already on it. The Everglades, all of that area, it's all water.
Yes, and a 2-foot storm, 2-foot rain surplus already for this vulnerable area. So flooding is going to be a huge concern, and freshwater flooding can also kill people as well.
All right, so a lot of information in this latest update, some of it good, all of it pointing to the fact that people must take cover and leave where there are mandatory evacuations.
Absolutely.
Janice, thank you very much. Floridians are preparing for what's coming on the heels of Hurricane Helene. And some communities have not even finished cleaning up all the debris in their areas. And again, it's been 12 days. Tampa's mayor with a dire warning.
This is literally catastrophic. And I can say without any dramatization whatsoever, if you choose to stay in one of those evacuation areas, you're going to die.
Dana Marie McNichol is on the ground in Miami Beach. Dana.
Ooh, man, what did she just say? Man, wow. It doesn't get any clearer than that. It doesn't get any clearer than that. This is very serious out here, people. I'm praying that you people make it out safe, that you got whatever you need, maybe, of course, your pets, but definitely your children and things like that. Man, wow. Okay, wow.
Harris, a strong message from that Tampa mayor, but it's true. Florida officials, this is the time, they're saying. Evacuate if you're told to do so. Be ready. Now, big cities like Miami and Fort Lauderdale, they're not in the direct path of Milton, but we have a tropical storm warning, flood watches. That's why I'm here where sandbags are being distributed today with the city of Miami Beach. But you know what? It's quiet this morning, a couple cars at a time. That's not really the case for what's happening up north. Our friends in Lakeland, Florida, where they had to wait for hours for sandbags, cars snaking around the parking lot. It did close around 5:45 last night. Some cars did not even make it to the front of the line in time. In Tampa, grocery store shelves are empty where residents were told to evacuate even yesterday, get on the road. Finding gas has been a challenge for so many. One couple went to 6 gas stations before they found anything.
God help us all. I feel bad. People who already got destroyed is gonna, hopefully they didn't already redo stuff and it's gonna happen again.
Now, Florida has deployed over 300 dump trucks that they are continuing to work 24/7, picking up that debris already from Hurricane Helene. Now, these are the largest evacuation numbers we've seen since Hurricane Irma, where nearly 7 million people took to the roads. DeSantis urging people to move today.
You can evacuate tens of miles. You do not have to evacuate hundreds of miles.
And he also said this morning that there will be evacuation centers set up all along evacuation routes. We see Tropicana Field where the Rays play. They have hundreds of cots ready for displaced people. And he even mentioned this morning that Florida is working with hotels to keep prices low, make sure they're not price gouging. Harris, we know this is such a difficult time for families and people here in Florida, praying that it does not come to the worst.
Now, from other research I've done, they were price gouging up in the Carolinas and stuff like that, which is crazy to me that they would do something like that. But, you know, greedy people do greedy things, especially when there's tragedy. And, of course, during tragedy, sometimes there is money to be made. But the thing of this is that us as Americans, we should look out for each other, especially during times of crisis like this. But, hey, though, here we go.
Dana Marie, thank you. Search crews continuing to look through the hard-hit areas of the Appalachians for people who are missing. The death toll from Hurricane Helene rises again. At least 232 are confirmed dead. Many people are hoping for more relief from the federal government. The White House is going on the defense big time. And I mean, if yesterday's any indication, it's tense. Here it is with our own correspondent, Peter Ducey.
If he's got money for people in Lebanon right now, without Congress having to come back, what does it say about his values? There's not enough money right now for
His
people
values,
in North Carolina who need it. That's not misinformation.
Wait, no, that is your whole premise of the question is misinformation, sir. What you don't, yes,
Which
it's misinformation.
Is there money to send to Lebanon right now?
I just mentioned to you that we provided more than $200 million to folks who are impacted in the area. The way you're asking me the
Okay, $200 million to folks that are impacted in the area. What are you talking about? Where'd that come from? We haven't heard nothing about that. Hold on here. This is crazy. What is she talking about? $200 million to folks that's been impacted. Hold on here. This is crazy. Because at the end of the day, though, FEMA's broke, allegedly. So what are you, where'd that money come from?
The question is misinformation. There is money that we are allocating to the impacted areas, and there's money there to help people who truly need it. There are survivors who need the funding, We're talking about more than $750.
So what the French toast is there to think about?
Is that going to increase? Is that 750 going to increase to 2,000-3,000 per person? I mean, hold on here. All right.
And it's there.
That you don't like misinformation. Exactly what I just asked about. And you said it was misinformation. Yes.
What you're asking me is why Congress needs to come back and do their job. That's what you're asking me.
Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre there, then stormed out of the briefing room. You know, this is sort of how this administration has handled the economy. They say one thing is happening, and Americans experience something completely different for protracted lengths of time. All of this is coming after the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas said FEMA did not have enough cash to cover hurricane season.
Right.
Well, a new Inspector General report shows FEMA is actually sitting on more than $7 billion of funding, but cannot use any of that money because of bureaucratic red tape, which means
What? Are you kidding me? So FEMA actually do got money. And you mean to tell me bureaucratic bureaucratic tape or not, these people are out here suffering, going through what they're going through, and FEMA just sitting on the cash talking about, oh my, what is going on here? What is going on? Man, this has got to be the most sorriest crap I've ever heard.
Means the White House is in the way. No wonder she slammed her binder and walked out. A scathing op-ed now, co-written by Democratic strategist Doug Schoen, a frequent friend and guest of this show, saying Hurricane Helene reveals a rudderless White House and an inept Harris's flaws. And the New York Post editorial board with FEMA hurricane aid stopped by road closed sign. That's Kamala Harris in a nutshell. Madison Scarpino is in Banner Elk, North Carolina. Madison.
Harris, officials tell us that it could take months or years in some places to rebuild. And one of the major concerns is all of the damage to some infrastructure, like a lot of roads. Crews from all across Western North Carolina are working to get these roads back into shape. And this is a problem all across the region. Helene destroyed some small mountain towns, making it impossible to get in and out of some places where bridges are gone and roads are completely buckled. And we are now seeing more federal help on the ground. These are Army soldiers from the 101st Airborne visiting Fairview yesterday. The soldiers went house to house, knocking on doors, asking people what supplies they needed. The White House says there are now 7,000 federal personnel on the ground helping with Helene aftermath. But people who live here say that it's the volunteers who are doing the brunt of the work, and it's neighbors who have been helping each other since this all started.
So we didn't have any access to have like the fire department out here. So it was just a bunch of locals, whoever had razors and quads and everything that could actually get up there.
And according to volunteers, the biggest needs for people right now remain clean water, food, and medication. Harris.
Madison, thank you very much. Fox Corporation has raised more than $8 million for the Red Cross's Hurricane Helene relief efforts. And it continues to be an annual disaster giving program partner, which enables the Red Cross to respond immediately to disasters by providing safe shelter, hot meals, emotional support, and other recovery resources. And you can help. Visit redcross.org/foxforward to donate.
I'm Steve Drew. So that's what it is out here, people. Jesus Christ, man, this is sad right here. This is a huge clusterfuck of everything. The government's messing up with their immediate responses that they supposed to be having with these type of tragedies that go on and things like that. Thank God during Katrina, they weren't screwing up like this. This is crazy. This is crazy. You can say whatever you want about Bush Jr., but he wasn't screwing up like this. When the tragedy came along, he wasn't screwing up like this. This is ridiculous out here, man. And this is sad. This is completely sad. I hope everybody, get out of Florida, please. You know what I'm saying? Lord Jesus, help everybody get out of Florida safely that needs to get out and find the proper shelter and protection that they need. Shout out to all you guys. Mad love to y'all. And yeah, but it is what it is, though. Shout out to all my subscribers. Mad love to y'all. If you're new to the channel, please hit that like, share, subscribe button. Make sure you ring that bell to be notified whenever I decide to post things. And like I always say,
and that, my friends, is the bottom line.
That, my friends, is the bottom line.